The girl no one noticed. She walked through the school hallway like a shadow, quiet, almost invisible. No one called her name. Students passed by, laughing with their friends, sharing music, gossip, or silly videos. But not a single glance turned toward the girl with old shoes and a secondhand backpack. She didn't speak unless someone asked her a direct question, and even then. She answered in soft, short words. Her name was Era. She was 14. And every day after school, she would walk home slowly. Not because she was lazy, but because she didn't want to reach home too fast. Home meant chores. Home meant silence. Home meant taking care of her little brother, warming leftover soup, and checking if her mother's fever had gone down. They lived in a small apartment, barely enough for 3 people. Her father had left long ago. No one really talked about him. Her mother worked at a nearby laundry, folding clothes for long hours until her hands hurt too much. Her younger brother was just 6, full of questions, full of energy, and always hungry. Era never complained. Who had lessons since they were 5? She didn't want applause or gold medals. She just wanted to sit at a piano, close her eyes, and let the keys speak what her mouth never could. And there was one piano. It stood in the old supply room behind the school gym. It was dusty, chipped, and half the keys didn't even work. One cared about it anymore. But Era had discovered it by accident one afternoon when hiding from bullies. That day, instead of crying, she touched the cold keys, just out of curiosity. She pressed one, then another, then a third, and something happened inside her. She began returning every day after school. Once she dropped her brother at home and gave her mom her medicine. She ran back to the school and snuck into the old room. She didn't know the names of chords, but somehow her fingers moved with feeling. The sounds were soft, broken, but full of emotion. It was as if the piano understood her when nobody else did. Her favorite time was when the sun began to set, and the light came through the high window, turning golden. She'd close her eyes and play slowly, imagining herself on a stage, not with lights or cameras, but just a room full of people finally hearing her. But of course, in real life, no. One was listening until one day. Someone did. It was a cold Tuesday afternoon. Era sat, eyes closed, gently pressing the worn-out keys. The tune she played was her own. Sad but beautiful. She didn't notice that someone had stopped just outside the door. It was Mr. Collins, school's music teacher. He paused. He had never heard such raw emotion come from that room. At first he thought it must be a recording, but no, someone was really playing. Sitting at the ruined piano, lost in music, he didn't say anything that day. He just watched. Then, as quietly as he came, he walked away, confused. Could it really be her? Era looked up, scared. I'm sorry. I didn't break anything. He shook his head. I didn't say you did. Play something right now. I want to hear you. She froze. Her palms went sweaty. Her heart pounded. Playing alone in a quiet room was different. Playing in front of someone, especially a teacher, was terrifying. Still, she followed him. Back into the music room. The real one this time, with a shining grand piano in the center. Go ahead, said. She sat, stiff and nervous. Her fingers touched the keys, but nothing came. The sounds were wrong, her rhythm off, breathing too loud. Mr. Collins frowned. I thought so, he muttered, shaking his head. Tears filled her eyes. He turned and walked away. And just like that, the one person who noticed, heard, didn't believe in her, but what he didn't know was this. Era didn't play for teachers. She didn't play for attention. She played for the sound, or the feeling, for the healing, and she wouldn't stop. No matter who believed in her or who didn't. One broken piano, one unbroken dream. The next day, Era didn't touch a piano. Not at home, not at school, not even the broken one she loved so much in the supply room. Toward her fingers still remembered the shame. The memory of sitting in that big, bright music room haunted her. Mr. Collins' cold stare. The way he had muttered, I thought so. Something she wasn't. That moment echoed in her head all night. Her pillow was wet with silent tears. At school, nothing changed. No one noticed the sadness behind her tired eyes. No one asked why her hands were trembling. But deep inside, something was burning, not anger, not even sadness. It was hunger. Hunger to prove not to Mr. Collins, not to the school, not even to the people online who were starting to comment on a mysterious piano recording, but to herself. She had to return to the broken piano. So after school, after feeding her little brother and giving her mother the evening medicine, Era quietly walked back to the school again. She took the back entrance, careful not to draw attention. The hallway lights were dim, and the janitor was already gone. The storage room felt colder that evening. Dust floated in the air like faded memories. The broken piano sat in the corner. Covered by an old sheet, Era stood there. The wood was still scratched. Several keys still didn't work. She didn't play anything fast or fancy. Just slow, steady notes from the heart. Notes that carried her pain, her doubt, her hope, and her dream. Somehow, the sound was more beautiful than ever. She played as if no one had ever doubted her. As if the world was silent and only the piano could speak. Unknown to her, he heard the notes. Curious, he followed the sound. Phone in hand, and what he saw made him freeze. There was Era, alone, eyes closed, playing like her soul was floating on every note. He didn't dare speak. He simply hit record. It's 40 seconds. That's all. He uploaded the video to his small channel with the caption, "Who is this girl?" The music made me stop walking. He didn't expect much. He only had 27 subscribers. But something strange happened. By morning, the video had over 15,000 views. By afternoon, ho-ho. And by evening, it had passed 500,000. People in the comments were emotional. I cried. I don't even know why. And while the world was waking up to her gift, Era still didn't know. The next day, Jake walked up to her in the school courtyard. She was sitting on a bench, eating a sandwich, eyes looking at nothing. "Hey," he said, nervous. "Did you see this?" Her own face was there playing the piano in that quiet, broken room.
Ow.
She blinked in shock as the view count ticked upward right in front of her eyes. "Is this real?" she whispered. Jake smiled. "I thought you should know. The world's listening now." Her hands shook, slightly. People were finally hearing her. Not because she shouted the loudest, not because she wore the fanciest clothes, but because of her music. This was just the beginning, because soon Mr. Collins would find out too, and this time he wouldn't just be watching quietly. The music teacher's doubt Mr. Collins had just finished his morning coffee when a knock came on the door. It wasn't a student, it was the school principal holding a tablet in his hand, face full of curiosity. "You've got to see this," he said, handing it over. Mr. Collins glanced at the screen. At first, he saw a blurry image of the old supply room. It's a dusty piano, a girl sitting in front of it. Then the sound started. Piano notes, soft, honest, hauntingly beautiful. The same sound he had heard days ago. But this time, it was clear, powerful even, magical. Halfway through the short clip, his eyes narrowed. "That can't be her," he whispered, but it was Era. The same girl who couldn't play in front of him. The same girl whose fingers had stumbled over the keys when he gave her a chance in the big music room. The girl he had dismissed as just another shy dreamer. But this video told a different story. In the comments, strangers from across the country were praising her. "This girl has something special. I felt every note in my chest. Doesn't just play music. She speaks through it." The video had over 2 million views now. Mr. Collins leaned back in his chair, stunned. He felt something uncomfortable creep inside him. Doubt had he been wrong. Had he judged her too quickly? He was a teacher, trained to spot talent, but he had turned his back on one of the purest gifts he had ever heard. Suddenly, the loudspeaker in the hallway buzzed. "All students, please report to the auditorium for the monthly assembly." He stood up, still lost in thought, and made his way to the auditorium. The students were already gathered, buzzing with chatter. At the front of the stage, the principal stood holding a mic. "Before we begin, I'd like to play something special," he said. "Some of you may have already heard it, but for those who haven't, this is one of our very own students." The video began to play on the big screen. It was that video. The moment the first notes rang through the speakers, the whole room went quiet. Even the usual noisy boys in the back stopped talking. Era, sitting in the second row, went pale. Her heart dropped. She hadn't known they'd show it to the entire school. She felt exposed. Like her soul had been placed on stage without warning, but no one laughed. No one rolled their eyes. When the video ended, silence lingered, then came. The applause, real applause, from students, from teachers, even from those who never knew her name. Mr. Collins stood frozen. When the lights came back on, the principal looked directly at her. "Would you like to come up and say something?" he asked. Era hesitated. Her legs trembled. But then she stood, slowly, and walked up the stairs. No speech, just a small nod and one sentence into the mic. I didn't think anyone would ever hear me." The room was quiet again, but Mr. Collins heard something deeper. Dead afternoon, he found her in the hallway. "Era," he said gently, "I owe you an apology." She looked up surprised. "I was wrong," he continued. "I didn't understand what you had. But now, I see it. That wasn't just music. That was heart. Would you let me guide you properly?" Era didn't know how to respond. Her heart raced. Was this real? She thought of that moment when he had turned away, the shame, silence, and now he was offering help. She looked at him carefully. "I'll try," she said. He nodded. "Start tomorrow. I want you to prepare for something. Something big." "What?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "The National Youth Music Showcase. One student from each school gets one chance to perform. It's not official yet. But I think you can be that student." Her breath caught in her throat. One chance. That word again. But this time, maybe she was ready. A secret recording Gira stood in the music room the next morning, still unsure if all of it was real. Mr. Collins greeted her with a quiet nod, different from before. His voice wasn't cold. His eyes weren't sharp. Wasn't the same man. Who had doubted her? He pulled out some printed music sheets and placed them on the stand. "Let's start with something light," he said. "Can you read notes?" Era shook her head. "No problem," he smiled. "You've already done something most students can't play with feeling." For the next hour, they worked together. He listened, guided her fingers, taught her small techniques. She was slow at first, nervous, but then her hands began to flow again. She wasn't used to being taught. She wasn't used to being encouraged, and it made her heart beat faster in a good way. By the end of the lesson, she had learned how to properly play a small classical piece. Nothing fancy, just simple notes. But it felt like magic. Mr. Collins clapped once. "Good, really good," she smiled, the kind of smile that had been hiding inside her for years. Outside the room, someone else had been watching Jake. The same boy who had uploaded her first video. He had returned with his phone, not to spy, not to sneak, but to record her growth. He didn't want to miss anything. He believed in her now, more than ever. This time, he asked her directly, "Hey, mind if I post another video?" Era hesitated. "Will people even care again?" He raised an eyebrow. "Care? You've got fans now. People keep asking, who is she? When's the next one?" Era blinked. Fans? She wasn't sure how to feel. The last time the video blew up, she hadn't even known. Now the attention made her stomach twist. But there was something exciting about it too. People wanted to hear her again. She gave a small nod. "Okay, just nothing fancy, just the piano." Jake grinned. "Got it." That afternoon, he posted a new video. Just Era sitting at the real music room piano, playing the small classical piece Mr. Collins had taught her with a gentle twist of her own emotion added at the end. He captioned it simply, "The girl with no lessons, no sheet, just heart." The video exploded again, but this time it spread faster. Musicians shared it. Bloggers wrote about it. One post read, "She doesn't play to impress. She plays to feel, and it makes us feel too." In just 2 days, the video hit 4 million views. Messages came from everywhere. "I want to hear her live. Please, someone give her a stage. I don't know who she is, but I believe in her." Offers started landing in the school's email inbox. Interviews, music, scholarships, even invitations to perform live. And that's when things got serious. The National Youth Music Showcase, the most respected event for young talent in the country, sent a message. One slot just opened. "Is your student ready?" Mr. Collins sat with Era after class. His face was calm, but his hands trembled with excitement. "This is it," he said. "They want to see you. One performance. Just one. You can't fake it. No. You can't mess it up. You'll be in front of judges, cameras, and thousands of people. But if you're ready, this could change your life." Era's chest tightened. She didn't say anything at first. All she could think about was that old broken piano, the room with the peeling paint, the way her fingers used to dance in the silence when no one cared who she was. Now, the world was. "Listening, I'll do it," she said softly. But inside, fear began to grow. What if she failed? What if she disappointed everyone? Mr. Collins must have seen it on her face. "You don't have to be perfect," he said gently. "You just have to be you. That's what moved the world." Ida nodded slowly. This time, her music wouldn't stay hidden. And the next time she sat at a piano, all eyes would be watching. The invitation to perform the letter arrived on a Thursday morning, sealed in gold and marked with the official crest of the National Youth Music Showcase. It didn't look like anything Era had ever seen before. For a moment, she thought it was a mistake. Maybe it was for someone else. But her name was right there, printed clearly at the top. Era, selected performer. She read the words 3 times. Her hands trembled as she held the envelope. Mr. Collins stood beside her, smiling proudly. "They've given you a spot," he said. "You'll be one of 10 students in the country to perform. On a real stage, in front of thousands. Thousands." The word echoed in her mind like a warning bell. She had never performed in front of anyone, except Mr. Collins and the one time in the old supply room when Jake quietly filmed her. Now she was expected to walk onto a shining stage. Lights. In her face, cameras pointing at her. Judges watching closely, and people expecting magic. She wasn't sure if she was excited or terrified. "What if I mess up?" she asked in a small voice. Mr. Collins looked at her gently. "Then you mess up. But at least you showed up." Era nodded, but her heart was heavy. At home, she sat quietly on her bed, staring at the piano video on Jake's phone. Over 6 million views now. Messages from strangers telling her she was special, gifted, inspiring. But Era didn't feel like any of those things. She still shared a tiny room with her brother. She still wore worn-out clothes. She still took care of her mother every evening. Fame hadn't changed anything around her, except now she had a chance. A rare golden chance. Jake texted her that evening. "The world believes in you. Time to believe in yourself." She smiled softly, grateful for him. The next few days were difficult. Mr. Collins began training her seriously, longer hours, tougher pieces, more practice. He even brought in a guest pianist to guide her on stage posture, breathing, and handling pressure. But every time she sat in front of the piano now, something felt different. She used to play with freedom. Now she played with fear. She worried about making mistakes. She worried about letting people down. She worried that maybe she wasn't really meant for the stage at all. One night she broke down during practice. Her fingers froze halfway through a song. She couldn't go on. Slammed the cover shut and whispered, "I can't do this." Her mother walked in quietly. Written by her father years ago, before he left, the letter wasn't long, just a few lines. She has music in her. Don't let the world drown it out. Tears filled Era's eyes. She had never known her father had believed in her, even back then, and now, here she was, that one day had come. She reopened the piano lid. This time, her hands moved not because she was trying to be perfect, because she remembered who she was. On the final night before the trip, she stood on the empty school stage, practicing in silence. Jake walked in, filming. She looked up, still recording. He nodded, still believing. She smiled and began to play. Not to impress, not to win, but to share. The soft notes echoed through the empty auditorium like a whisper of truth. She was ready. Or maybe she was still scared. But either way, the invitation had been accepted. And the next time she touched a piano, it wouldn't be in an old, dusty room, but under bright lights, the whole world watching, battling fear and pressure. The lights were too bright, the stage too big, and the silence in the auditorium too loud. Era stood behind the heavy curtain, heart pounding in her chest. Her hands were cold, even though the stage lights made her skin sweat. She had never felt so small before. The National Youth Music Showcase was nothing like she imagined. There were people everywhere, young performers in expensive clothes, their parents, holding clipboards and coffee cups. Everyone looked ready, except her. She sat in the corner of the dressing room, wearing a plain black dress the school had bought for her. Her hair was neatly tied back, but inside, she was falling apart. Mr. Collins leaned down beside her. Okay? Era nodded. Her stomach hurt. Her throat was dry. And the piano waiting on that stage felt like a mountain she could never climb. He gently placed his hand on her shoulder. I know it's scary, but you're not here because of luck. You're here because the world heard something special in you. She didn't answer. She was too busy listening to the sound of the performer before her. A teenage boy was finishing a flawless classical piece. She waited for the cue just then. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Jake. Doesn't matter what happens out there, just remember, you're already someone people believe in. Just be you. She smiled, but her fingers still shook. A second message popped up. This time, it was a video from her little brother. He was holding a toy microphone and said, "Good luck, big sis. Play the song you play when mom's asleep. It's the best." One. Her eyes welled up. She had played that song only once in front of her family. A soft, slow melody she had written from her own feelings, a mix of sadness, love, and hope. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't even finished, but it was hers. Then she heard it. Next performer, Era. The curtain moved. The light hit her face. Applause greeted her softly. She walked slowly to the grand piano in the center of the stage. The audience was quiet now, waiting, expecting. She sat down, adjusting her fingers. For a moment, her mind went blank. All the training, all the hours, gone. Then, she remembered her brother's voice. Play the one you play when mom's asleep. She closed her eyes and began to play that song. Not the piece she had practiced. Not the one Mr. Collins had picked, but the song of her own heart. The first few notes were simple, gentle, barely loud enough to fill the room. People in the audience leaned forward, curious note by note, of being scared of finding courage in broken keys and love in small rooms. Her hands moved freely. Now, no longer scared. And by the time she played the final note, the room had changed. There was no sound, not even a cough. Then all at once, the applause, loud, real, from the heart. Some stood up. Some wiped their eyes. She had done it, not because she followed the rules, but because she followed her heart. Backstage, Mr. Collins had tears in his eyes. He looked at the stage and whispered that was the performance of a lifetime. The performance of a lifetime. The crowd was still standing. Hands clapped, some slower, some faster, but none stopped. The stage lights reflected off tearful eyes and smiling faces. Era didn't move. She sat at the piano, hands resting on the keys. Frozen not because she didn't know what to do, but because she couldn't believe what had just happened. She had just done the impossible. A song with no name. A melody born in the dark corners of her heart had just filled a concert hall and touched people she had never met. For a moment, it felt like time paused, and then she stood. The applause only grew louder. She gave a small, nervous bow, her cheeks red, her breath shaky, and walked off the stage. Backstage, Mr. Collins was waiting. He didn't speak, just opened his arms. Ira hesitated, then stepped into the hug. "I didn't play the piece we practiced," she whispered. "I know," he said, "and thank God you didn't." She looked up. "I thought you'd be mad." "Mad," he chuckled softly. "Ira, I've taught music for 20 years. I've seen students play with skill, with memory, with speed. But what you did tonight," paused, "that was music, real music, the kind people remember." A few hours later, she was sitting on a bench outside the venue, her dress wrinkled, shoes off. Hugging her knees, Jake sat beside her, holding 2 cups of warm tea. He handed her one. "You did it." "I think I blacked out," she whispered with a tiny laugh. "I don't even remember half of it." "Doesn't matter," he said. "The world remembers it for you." She took a sip. "Was it really that good?" Jake pulled out his phone and showed her something. A clip. Just 45 seconds. Someone in the audience had recorded the ending of her performance and uploaded it. In less than 3 hours, it already had over 2 million views. Ira blinked. "Already? People are calling it the Midnight Melody," Jake said. "Some even say you brought real music back." She stared at the screen in disbelief. "I never named the song," she whispered. "Now you don't need to," he smiled. "They named it for you." The next day, news articles were everywhere. Teen girl stuns national stage with original composition. Ira's Midnight Melody. Raw, real, revolutionary, no training, no sheet. No fear, just pure heart. Interviews were requested. Music schools offered scholarships. Even a well-known recording studio sent a message saying, "We'd love to talk." But through all of this, Ira remained quiet. She didn't chase fame. She didn't run to grab deals or sign papers. All she wanted was to go home. Back in her small apartment, things were still the same. The kitchen still had a broken cupboard door. Her mother still coughed softly in the evenings. Her brother still dropped crumbs everywhere. But now, there was something new in the air. Hope. That night, she sat by the window. Holding her brother's hand as he drifted off to sleep, her mother placed a small envelope beside her pillow. Ira opened it. Inside was a folded page, the same page her father had once written long ago. Only this time another line had been added. By her mother, he was right. You were meant to be heard. Later, she returned to the old school building. The storage room behind the gym was still dusty. The broken piano still sat in the corner, covered in a white sheet. She walked up to it, slowly, carefully, and removed the cover. Her fingers traced the scratched wood. Some keys were still dead, some squeaked. But to her, this was the piano that raised her. This was the first place she had ever spoken without words. She sat down and began to play. Not for a stage, not for the world, but for herself. And in that quiet room, with no one watching, she smiled. Because sometimes the performance of a lifetime doesn't happen when everyone is looking. Sometimes it happens in silence, where it all began. When the world finally saw her, the sun had just begun to rise. Soft golden light came through the window of Ira's small apartment. The curtains fluttered in the morning breeze, and everything felt quiet. Calm. Her phone buzzed once. She picked it up without much thought. It was just another message, one of many that had come since the night of the performance. This one was from a small music school in another state. "We don't offer fame, but we offer heart. You ever want to teach? The door is open." She smiled and put the phone down. It had been 2 weeks since the showcase. 2 weeks since her Midnight Melody stunned the world. 2 weeks since the video crossed 20 million views online. And yet, not much had changed around her. The fridge still hummed quietly. Her brother still asked for cereal in the morning. Her mother still winced when she stood. It's too fast, but something inside Ira changed forever. Era didn't chase the cameras. She politely declined the offers from big agencies. She refused to become a brand. Instead, she chose to keep things simple, honest, real. She accepted one scholarship from a small, quiet music academy that valued emotion more than perfection. The dean had personally written to her, "You don't play to impress. You play to connect. That's rare." She packed a small bag, hugged her family tightly, and promised to come home every weekend. She didn't bring makeup. She didn't bring glittering. She was just a few clothes and a notebook filled with her own written songs. At the academy, she was treated like a star at first. Students whispered her name in the hallways. Some watched her closely during lessons, waiting to see the magic again. But Era stayed the same. Quiet, kind, focused. She still played like she always had, eyes closed, heart open. One day a teacher asked, "Why don't you play louder? Why don't you show off a little?" "You can, you know," Era simply said. "Because I'm not playing to be seen. I'm playing to be heard." That was the moment they understood her. Months passed. Era wrote more songs, performed at small events, helped her classmates who were struggling. She even taught music to children in the nearby village on weekends. One of the children had never seen a real piano before. When he touched the keys for the first time, looked up and said, "I feel like I'm flying." Era smiled. How it had felt for her, too. One night, as she returned to her room, she found a small envelope waiting on her bed. No name, just a golden seal. She opened it. Inside was an invitation. "We are hosting the International Youth Harmony Concert. The theme is One Song, One Soul. We invite Era because sometimes one soul is enough." It was the biggest stage she'd ever dreamed of. Global audience, top musicians, broadcast in over 40 countries, and she was no longer afraid. Not because she thought she was the best, but because she knew her music was true. This time, she wore a simple white dress, no diamonds, no flash, just her. She walked onto the stage, the same way she always had, small steps. Steady breath, eyes lowered. The audience went quiet. She sat at the piano and played something new. A song no one had ever heard before. One she wrote just a week ago. Inspired by the child who said he felt like flying. It was gentle. It was raw. It was beautiful. By the end, people didn't clap right away. They were too moved then. The hall exploded with applause. Some wept. Some held hands. The world had seen 100 performances that night, but hers they felt, back home in the same apartment. Her mother and brother watched the live broadcast on an old TV. When Era bowed, her brother stood on the couch and shouted, "That's my sister." Her mother wiped a tear and whispered, "That's our light." In the years that followed, Era became more than a name. She became a symbol, not of fame, not of riches, but of something pure, of being seen, of being heard, of being brave enough to play your truth, even when no one believes in you at first. And those stages got bigger, and the spotlight brighter. Era never forgot the broken piano in the dusty schoolroom. She never forgot how it all began. It's one chance, one song, and one girl the world almost didn't notice.